Richard Tiffany Gere was born on August 31, 1949, in Philadelphia, but he grew up in the tranquil village of Syracuse, New York. It was a little town where everyone knew one another. His father, Homer, was an insurance agent who was known for being kind and willing to help his neighbors. The family's house was little, but it was warm, full of music, and full of questions. Richard was the second of 5 kids and showed signs of being restless from a young age. He was good at gymnastics, played a lot of instruments, and became quite interested in major philosophical topics. He looked to be looking for something more than the normal ups and downs of small-town life, even when he was a teenager. Teachers noticed a smart, gifted student. But there was always a feeling that he was gazing beyond the obvious road in front of him. That calm interest would subsequently affect both his work and the choices he made in his personal life. A young man looking for purpose. Gere graduated from high school in 1967 and got a gymnastics scholarship to the University of Massachusetts Amherst. He chose to study philosophy there. Philosophy was not just an academic subject for him. It was a method to learn about life and why we are here. He studied books by people who thought about what reality is, and he spent a lot of time thinking about notions concerning identity, truth, and human experience. But the college's controlled setting started to feel too limiting. Gere made a brave choice to depart after 2 years without finishing his degree. It wasn't a casual choice, it was because I had a strong urge to express myself creatively. Acting seemed like a chance to ask the same questions that philosophy did, but with real people instead of texts. He had little money and no certainties, yet he headed toward the theater industry anyhow, wanting to establish a life that felt real instead of just safe. By the late 1960s and early 1970s, Joe was a struggling actor in New York City, where he was looking for work in theater. He, like many young actors, didn't know what would happen next and had trouble making ends meet. There were always auditions, and the parts were usually small. While working on modest productions, he sometimes slept in his van or stayed in cheap motels. But these years were really important for his growth. Being on stage required discipline and honesty about your feelings, and Gere slowly built up a powerful presence that people recognized. He got his first big break when he joined the original London theater production of Grease. The play's raw energy let him show off his charm and confidence, which were signs of his future success. People in the theater world started to notice his abilities, even though he wasn't very well known. The lengthy days of rehearsals and performances also helped him remember something crucial. Acting was not only about becoming famous, it was also about learning about people. A spiritual journey commences. Gere learned things in his early 20s that had a big impact on how he saw the world. He was interested in philosophy, which led him to meditation and Buddhist beliefs that taught him to be aware of the present moment, have compassion, and think about things. He started meditating every day and learning about Eastern philosophy. These lessons gave him a point of view that was very different from the fast-paced world he was about to enter as an actor. The concept stressed understanding suffering and being kind instead than focused on status or prosperity. Gere found the practice grounding, especially when things were unclear. He started meditating every day and kept doing it for the rest of his life. This spiritual interest also made him travel and meet teachers who helped him comprehend mindfulness and compassion. These events will eventually shape his decisions in his personal life, work, public life, love life, relationships, and personal growth. Over the years, Jay's personal life has got a lot of attention from the public. He married supermodel Cindy Crawford in the early 1990s, making them one of the most talked about celebrity couples of the time. The media was very interested in their relationship, but the stress of celebrity and busy occupations made it hard for them to keep their relationship healthy. They decided to break up in a respectable way after a few years. Later, Gere married actress Gere and they had a kid named Homer. Being a father gave his life a new sense of purpose. Even though that marriage failed, it helped him learn more about family and responsibilities. Gere realized that personal progress typically happens from both happy times and hard times through these partnerships. Each episode of his life helped him become more thoughtful. They taught him that partnerships need patience, communication, and a willingness to change. Instead than just going after big roles, a career that has changed over time. Gere slowly started picking projects that sparked his imagination. This change let him look at other types of characters and ways of telling stories. He played the affable lawyer Billy Flynn in the 2002 movie Chicago, which was one of his best moments. The part asked him to sing and dance, which showed that he was eager to push himself even after being in the business for decades. The movie did well, which got him a Golden Globe Award and a new group of fans. He kept making cerebral movies in the years that followed, movies that were more about character depth than action. Critics typically said these performances were mature and had a lot of depth. Gere was happy to pull back from the spotlight and work on projects that interested him and helped him grow as an artist. A new part of family life. Gere met Alejandra Silva, a Spanish publicist and activist, in his mid-60s. This was another surprise in his life. Even though they were a lot older than each other, they found that they had similar beliefs and were both interested in doing humanitarian work. They kept their romance private and out of the public eye, and they got married in 2018. They made a family that mixed languages and cultures. In the next few years, they had 2 kids, which brought new vitality and happiness to Gere's life. Having a child again later in life affected his daily life in ways he didn't expect. Instead of bustling red carpet events, he spent a lot of time with his family and doing basic things at home. Gere talked about the experience in a pleasant way, saying that being older made him more patient and thankful for being a father. In a way that celebrity never had, family became the most important thing in his life. Life outside of the spotlight. Gere and his family have spent more time in Spain in recent years. His wife's ancestry there gave him a great sense of community and connection. The move made life quieter than living in Hollywood, where people were always watching. He could do things like wander around marketplaces, spend time in parks, and eat with family in Madrid. The change was a sign of his long-held wish to have a balanced life away from the public eye. He still works on some movies and TV shows, but work is no longer the most important element of who he is. Instead, Gere keeps sponsoring creative and humanitarian programs that encourage empathy and understanding between cultures. The slower pace of life lets him keep up with the spiritual practices that have led him for decades. This reinforces the idea that happiness frequently comes from simplicity rather than always achieving anything. Thoughts about purpose and legacy. Gere often talks about what really counts when you look back on more than 50 years in the entertainment business. Fame, money, and prizes opened doors. But they were never the end goal. He learned from his experiences that pleasure comes from having meaningful relationships, caring for others, and having the guts to live by your values. He now spends much of his time with his family, helping charities, and talking about mindfulness and empathy. For Gere, legacy isn't about how much money a movie makes or how famous it is, but by the good things that person does. The young man who was always looking for answers in philosophy books finally understood that kindness and connection are what give life meaning. His experience shows us that there are various ways to be successful and that some of the most important things happen quietly, away from the public eye.